Right, we're live. Episode 13, Hypeworks podcast. We're both wearing white t-shirts again.
Don, this is where you say it's Alex.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Jake.
So basically, what we've been doing the last few episodes is we've had like guests, and that's been great because we've kind of gone into the weeds in a lot of like their stuff, and we've learned a lot. But I think it's like time to go back to our roots and like talk about our stuff. So what we did is we were working on what we've called the Masterplan, which is basically a complete breakdown of like our like business philosophy, vision, everything we're working on. I think it's a good idea for everyone to do this every year. Like call it what you want, but just like plan the year ahead.
Kind of. I mean, we have the plan, but you know, it's the next steps. We're planning some big upgrades, and we'll see what is. I think we've had some challenging times. I don't think we've had any bad times. I think we've only had good times recently. Working 7 days a week. That's not even an agency joke. It's a joke, but it's not a joke. Loving life, really.
Yeah. How do you think plans are like generally? Like, do you really care much about planning?
Yeah, I do. As you know, I care. But I think that you know how I am. It's like alignment of values across the organization, alignment of values in everything that we do, the type of clients that we have, the way that we upgrade our I guess channels, what we do on the podcast, what we do on the website, the way that we write articles, the type of clients that we take on. We're moving in a direction now, and everything's starting to become more or less aligned, and it's really about how we achieve what we set out to do in the beginning. Shave a bit off here, shave a bit off there, trim it down, trim the fat until we get to a mean and lean org. And I think right now, in the last few months, we've really made some progress, and a lot of introspection as well, like looking internally, and, saying what can we reduce here, what can we increase there. I'll give you let's list a few topics that we can just talk about. I think website, my feeling on the website, it's about to undertake a massive upgrade. That's one component that I'm very focused on. More as like a business calling card, a flyer than anything, but it's really got to represent us. So watch out, everybody. There's going to be some upgrades there. Socials, it's really about knowing where to focus. But to be honest with you, I think that we do an okay job. I think it will kind of come organically and naturally to us in the long term. But we also need to get our client roster down. I think clients is very important. The type of people that we work with kind of define who we are and the sort of energy that we have. And, we're learning all the time and taking on new challenges as well, and doing things that we've never done before. And I think the most important thing is that we love and enjoy everything that we do. We've got to enjoy the process.
I saw a 37 Signals video on that, and like they look at everything they do from the perspective of are we going to enjoy this? Are we actually committed to doing this? Like, forget the money, forget the business side, forget all that stuff. Like, are we actually genuinely interested in doing this? I think that's a good lens to kind of start like looking at like the vision. We'll talk about the vision just quickly on planning. Like, I've always been the opinion like a bad plan's better than no plan, because I think a lot of people, especially companies we worked for in the past, they get anal about planning. They get anal about like getting all the details and this and that. It's like, life doesn't work like that. There's things that change all the time, right? Like stuff that goes out of your control. And if you spend like every waking minute like optimizing, tweaking the plan, like it's going to be blown up anyway, right?
Yeah. I think there's creating bureaucracy and admin, isn't there? And it's really about knowing what to plan, like tightly. What needs a very strict standards of control and measurement, and what doesn't. So there is an element of planning and proactive planning and reactive planning, etc. Knowing about what should change, what we expect to be dynamic, what we expect to be static.
I
agree.
Starting with the vision, like high level planning, like vision, like how important do you think vision is to a company? Because I think we've all worked in companies where there's no vision. And then there's other companies where they proclaim there's a vision, but no one really buys into it,
Yeah, what? I think that's even worse. I'm not going to name any names, but I can think of a few companies that, they have this grandiose mission statement, and then you find out that everybody inside the company is using the competitor's product, and they're going recommending the competitor's stuff, to you. And it's what is the point of working for this organization and business if you don't believe in it? I really think that companies should take an audit of their staff and be okay, to what extent do you believe that this can work? And I don't mind if the employee turns around and went, well, it can work, but we need to change X, Y, and Z to make it work. That's fine. You can have your opinions about change, but people that don't believe in it and don't have any... If anybody came and we go, okay, why do you think that this? Oh, well, maybe we can do this. It'd be you're fired. Do you know what I mean? There shouldn't be maybes. It should be, we need to sit down and think, but you have to have passion, come full circle. You have to enjoy what you do. If you don't enjoy it, you can't be good at it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of companies virtue signal. They just say this is the mission, vision, but there's no real belief behind it. Like you say, and the
ESG
always attach a slogan, right?
CSR.
And there's some good ones, again, Nike's ones everyone can be an athlete. That's really good, right? There's such a it's attainable. I mean, of course, some people are can't be an athlete because they're disabled or whatever. I don't want to go into
then you can get Paralympians.
Well, yeah, but what I mean, there's certain situations where you can't be an athlete in a certain thing.
Okay, but this is where we go controversial because the brakes are coming off, Alex. The brakes are coming off. I'm going to say this. We should be careful, and I'm saying we as in the Hypeworks, but this extends to society about what kind of values and principles you want to promote. Everyone can be an athlete. I'm not entirely sure I agree. It should be more those prepared to put in the work and the commitment and the dedication to become an athlete can become an athlete. So everybody has the potential, but it's not everybody is, not everybody can. There is a mindset component to it.
Just to clarify, their slogan is, if you have a body, you are an athlete, which plays into what you're saying.
I disagree with that. If you have a body and the right mindset, then you have the potential to be an athlete. That's what I would change it to, but it doesn't have quite the same ring, does it?
Yeah. I think for us, we came up with this concept of changing the way work is done, because we one of our biggest things is inefficiency and doing things better. So we haven't kind of finalized that, but I think it's a good starting point. Everything we do, we want to make better, the work, right?
I think the thing is as well, there's one other component that I've been thinking a lot about recently, which is maybe we can give a different perspective to the other kinds of agencies or brands or whatever, just again, based on our experiences and where we've been, etc. But one word that stands out to me is, in a way, I kind of do want to be a little bit unorthodox, because in the future, I really want the reputation for doing things that are outside of the box. And I really hope that we continue to get the opportunity to be able to explore some of the ideas, because we shoot ideas backwards and forwards, and
yeah,
most of the really crazy ones, which we know would work, maybe they're a bit edgy.
Yeah.
We never tell people.
Yeah.
Because we don't find it's not the right context or the opportunity. So hopefully we will continue to get those kind of opportunities. They're developing. We can do so many crazy things. We've got good ideas, and we don't want to stay inside the box.
Yeah.
We want to be unorthodox because, we've been told our whole corporate careers that it's got to be done this way or got to be done that way, and here's a template to follow and blah, blah, blah. No, there's so much more. Marketing is a combination of art and science. It's neither, art nor science. It's a combination of two. You've got to blend the intangibles with the tangibles, the unquantifiables with the quantifiables to have this creation in the middle. So in a way, it's very much like art. I'm rubbish at drawing, but I can give you a cool idea that's going to set your brand on fire.
Yeah, and I think another thing with a vision is it's not something that you're going to get overnight. Like we're playing around with some ideas right now. We've got this "don't follow" tag like on our social. Like it's "don't follow" is really, it's really concise, right? It's like it says exactly what it says. Like don't just copy other people. So I think to get to the vision is like you've got to play around with different words, concepts, and like eventually you'll get to something that you like. I think it takes time, I think, to do it.
It does. It takes time, and we're getting there.
Yeah,
we're getting there. We've got many, many strings to the bow, and we're getting there slowly.
And I think another thing as well is that the vision has to change. Like, so you think about Google, like their vision back in the day was organize the information, right? And now they've got this ChatGPT stuff, and they're having to think about that again because like the information doesn't need to be organized now. It needs to be served, right? It needs to be, TikTok is disrupting it because it needs to be the way people access it is changing. So maybe they need to change their mission. It's not a static thing, I don't think.
I would agree. I do think, though, that core values and principles don't necessarily need to change, even if the end goal does or the mission statement does.
Yeah.
But, no, I think the same as you just pointed out, we're changing, we're growing.
Yeah.
It's getting serious. We're running faster. We want to keep growing. We want to keep expanding. We're very ambitious, and it will come.
You just segued on to the next topic of scaling. And you mentioned earlier, like, I think the scaling part comes from markets and customers. Like, so like when you're growing a business, like you need to define like, okay, who is my market? Who is my ideal customer type? And that take, again, similar to that takes time to get that, right? Where should we be selling to? Who should we be selling to? Customer wise.
I think that's part of it. Yeah, no, 100%. There's having a product market fit, right? Scaling is an interesting one because it's defined by the customers, but it's also for example, chess is the way that you play chess to a lesser extent is defined by the moves that the objects, the characters, or whatever you call the pieces.
Yeah, pieces.
Are restricted to, but you can still develop your style on top of that. Like, do you play with like flair? Are you offensive? Are you defensive? Yeah. So there's also, where you invest your money.
Yeah.
That also defines, you could put it into your CRM and be very, organization.
Yeah, data focused.
Or you could put it into your marketing and change the way that people perceive you and maybe not have the back end. So scaling really is about, it's making the best moves, the most optimum moves at the best times to increase efficiency or performance. Yeah. That's how I view scaling.
Go to market right now is really interesting because like, economy shit, people are cutting budgets. Like we've seen this, like marketing budgets have been cut. So I think the question is like, your kind of approach to getting customers right now is key. Like a lot of companies probably just like are trying to hang on to their most important customers, and then other ones are like, we just need to try and get as many as possible. I think for us, it's like quality over quantity, right? Like 100%. trying to develop those.
I think, I don't want this to turn into like complaining hour, but
no, why not?
you picking the right customers is so important for any business, because you always get questions about scope and budget. Even when you sign the contract, it's like, okay, well, who's responsible for this? If we need additional money for whatever, are you going to provide that, or do you expect us to take it out of our bottom line?
Yeah.
So you want customers where you feel that every time you make or you reach one of those choke points, that it's a fair discussion. It's not that every conversation that you're getting into is a negotiation whereby you feel that you're being pushed unfairly, because it becomes tiresome and you lose enthusiasm for your clients and your projects.
It's weird how it feels like sometimes it feels like a landlord-renter relationship with the customer, right? Client. Because they're pushing you down. They're trying to get costs down. They're trying to get, things on their side. And then like on our side, we're trying to like fight our corner. And it's that balance between like fighting them, but at the same time, like trying to help them, like trying to work with them, there's a balance there.
I mean, to be honest, this is what I want to kind of cut out. I don't want the fighting. Yeah. I'm not saying that you won't ever have it. Don't get me wrong. I think in any relationship, you're always going to have a level of confrontation. But, in a good relationship, it's how you manage that confrontation, right? Mm-hmm. It's not how many times you have confrontation. It's how the confrontation is managed. Mm-hmm. Is it, healthy and sustainable? Does it move the needle forward? Or are we going round in circles?
Yeah, and all that feeds back to scaling. Like if you're fighting the customers and you're doing like random stuff like that, then you're not scaling, because you can't divert your attention to finding new business and like, doing other stuff in your business. Like you're just, you're stuck in the war of attrition with the customers,
Exactly. You just sink in time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's why I wouldn't like consulting, like one of these consulting things, because I'd imagine it's like just a battle, like a battle. You're trying to extract money, and they're trying to get the most bang for buck, right? Like pure consulting. I think I'll drive you mad
about that, because again, never really been I don't know. Maybe it's just not the way that I operate, to be honest with you. I think that again, we're kind of coming full circle on the whole scaling topic here, but scaling in some ways, as you said, it's about getting market fit, but part of that equation is about figuring out where you want to fit and the type of people or clients you want to fit into.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like I feel like on a lot of projects, when it's going good, it's going good. I'm not going to mention my favorites out of our list of clients. You know who you are, but it's the people that effectively enable me to push the most, which and usually and all the time mostly see the best results.
Yeah.
But with the least amount of, I don't want to say confrontation, it's not the right word, just energy expenditure. Yeah. That's it. Energy expenditure.
How do you think we will feel like imagine one day, like, these companies that when you look at their like revenue or their customers, and they're like, it's attrition, right? It's like a slow curve, and then it just shoots up, hockey stick thing. How do you think these guys feel like when they get the product market fit and they scale the customer base and like everyone loves them? Like, do you think that's like relief, or do you think they're like, okay, like, what do we do now? Like.
Well, it's hard to conceptualize as anybody but myself. So I don't know what your opinion is, but mine is like, I don't think I'll ever notice that, because it's just like, okay, it's on to the next thing. It's on to the next thing. It's not like, oh, we made it, let's take a break. For me, it's always going to be like, okay, the question for me is going to come down to, where do I draw the line? It's not, oh, I need to put in a bit more work. It's like, where do I draw the line? Because you know what I'm like. Like, I'm just going to go until someone says, "Whoa, calm down," you know. So, where do we draw the line?
But there's an argument. Like, there's an argument. You just can't afford to not keep working, because like if you stop, then things might turn the other way, and then you'll lose clients, you lose customers, you lose business. Maybe you just can't stop. You got to keep going.
I think this is the thing. Some people scale to a point where they get comfortable, right? And they get settled into...
Every big business gets comfortable at some point. Yeah.
For sure. I don't know. For me, it's probably not in my nature, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of many companies that don't kind of settle in some kind of midlife.
Yeah, but there's different reasons why companies sort of plateau.
Yeah.
Different reasons.
That's the thing with scaling. Like you're constantly having to reevaluate and tweak things, and like.
But it's also the culture and the workforce that you bring in. Like you were just saying before we jumped on this call about a certain company in London that bans the use of certain words, and their profits may be a little bit hindered by the fact that they might have all these policies in place that make it inefficient to have a normal conversation.
And they've got, I think their business model doesn't quite work as well. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, but again, if you're focused on saying, if you can't, if you're focused on, oh, everybody in the office needs to have this gay pride flag on their laptop, or everybody in the office, you can't use the word guys because guys is sexist. It's like, chill out. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, this is where the internet can get on at me and say, oh, this guy doesn't understand, he's part of some sort of, whatever hierarchy, oppression, something. But it's like, to the point where it's like people are so offended these days by absolutely everything that they're missing the bigger picture.
Yeah. Kind of moving on from that is the team side. And like, I think, so team is really kind of in the news right now because like all these companies are firing people. They're shrinking the teams. So I saw a chart with Facebook, and like they had Mark Zuckerberg at the top, and they had like 20 different like management roles, like director, VP, team, senior manager, team leader, and they're trying to like flatten the organization, right, to make it more efficient. In terms of team, we're of the opinion that it's better to be like fairly flat, like in terms of like everyone should be able to contribute. Like, I think that's the most important thing, right? Like, everyone should be able to contribute. And
again, I don't agree, because I've worked in Oppo, and it was chaos, and it was fairly flat. It wasn't right. It was awful. Sorry, I've said names again. I've said names.
Fairly, these companies are fairly hierarchical as well, though. Like they
they are, but it's top down, and the people in the positions, that hold the power make the calls, and that's fair enough. But sometimes it can be so flat that there's no progression, and people are unmotivated. And here's the other thing about, particularly the view on the Chinese company, because again, have a certain experience and set of expertise where I know a little bit about the Chinese working culture. I once had a manager come to me and say, okay, well, this person's going to be promoted. They're the nicest to me and I like them the most. And I turned around to them and said that's the problem. You're picking who you're going to promote based on how much you like them, not necessarily on how good they are at their job. And what that does is it means that you disenfranchise the other people in your team, because you unequally distribute the resources to the people that you like the most. They can perform better. The efficiency in your team is gone because you don't have a fair test. You don't give them the same resources and say, well, whoever does the best with the resources that I've given them, therefore is the most efficient or effective within this certain role. So immediately you create a bias. That person 2 years down the line that you've given favorability to, gets the promotion, and everybody in the team leaves, and you move maybe one up the ladder and that person moves up the ladder, and then the process starts again. So you develop this culture whereby you're hiring people based on, I don't know whether you saw that, by the way. I don't know whether you want to edit this, but I just got like a little notification on my screen.
No.
Okay, so you're creating a culture based upon hiring people through favoritism, based on meritocracy. Now, listen, I'm fully aware that that's not just an issue that's in Chinese companies. It's I think it's very pronounced in Chinese companies because of the way in which the culture works. But it does exist in a lot of companies globally. So I guess it's about how you set up fairness in the system as well.
Yeah. So what?
To be honest, the last thing that I'll say on the fairness in the system, come back to the last podcast we did with Craig that had to be moderated temporarily, is about paying people fairly from the get-go so that they're happy and they do a good job and they're motivated because they know they have growth opportunity and they're getting paid fairly rather than they feel like they're being squeezed for everything, which again comes to the point that you were making about the clients initially, that you don't want clients where you feel they're trying to squeeze every last little drop out of you.
Yeah.
It's disrespectful.
So, as we're thinking about like our culture, like, and whose culture do you admire? Like, for me, like, I have to admire Apple's. There's some parts of Apple's culture I don't like. But the thing I like about them is like they have this like functional management. So like the guy that's in charge of chips is like the best chip engineer, and the guy that's in software is the best software guy, and the media guy is the media guy. Like, and Tim Cook is the supply chain. They're highly functional, which kind of is quite unusual. Like at big companies, because big companies just tend to be like, generalized. Like they have like the standard titles, right? Like the usual VP, SVP titles. How do you see that, like, as a company gets bigger?
That's a great question. I know. I think here's the thing, isn't it? It's like the form of the company follows the functionality.
Yeah.
How can I describe? Just as an analogy to illustrate this point, it's like you don't have a template of presentation to necessarily do planning in a way. It's like, we don't anyway, so this is like spoiler alert. We don't necessarily have like a template. This is how you plan A, B, and C. It's like we have an end objective and we create a plan to get to the end objective. So our presentation, our plan, our whatever is following how we are going to achieve that objective in our way, as opposed to a set, standardized, systematic approach. And again, I think this comes back down to our core ethos of not following the crowd, of being unorthodox and doing things a little bit differently. And maybe that's also due to our experience and our persona, but I guess in some ways, we don't want to be the same. So we have to stand out. And by standing out, it means that we're following, our form is following the functions as we need them, basically.
I think it's right. And I think eventually we'll need to get to a point where we need like a head of each thing. Each function will have a head of design, head of people, head of whatever. I think that's a logical way to do it. It's like back in the Stone Age, right? Like in the village, like you would have had a head, like friggin' builder, and a head like hunter. Like you just need someone that is responsible for this area. You have to, otherwise you say it's chaos, And then within that, you've got like teams of people. Yeah,
fully agree with that.
It's quite simple, right? You don't need a big HR department to figure this stuff out. You just say, okay, you're the head of this, you're head of that.
Again, I can't speak for all companies, okay, because I haven't worked at all companies, but I think HR sometimes, in some situations, they overstep out of their depth and they step into domains which they shouldn't be involved in. I think that can also be a kind of bit of a case. You may have let's say you're hiring for a creative lead within a company. You may have the world's best creative lead sat in front of you, but the HR can come along and, at this day and age, we go, okay, it's the wrong skin color. Out. That's the issue in the modern workforce these days.
Too old or too whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. People aren't necessarily being selected because of who they are fits the form of the function that they're going to, perform. It's like, okay, you don't have this degree or whatever. And I'm not saying that there's not any merit to having certain sets of degrees or qualifications. I think there definitely is. I think degrees can give a foundational set of premises to how someone might function within their role. Let's say they did a marketing degree. It might give them some kind of benefit, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the be all and end all. I think marketing, again, is like quite a broad terminology. So, there's different ways that people might be creative within that space. So I don't know. I think sometimes that HR departments have a tendency to be quantitative, but defined on a set of values that don't necessarily match the specification for the role.
Right. And another thing is that kind of goes against the grain is like, if I think about the most successful companies and teams, like they were all like-minded people. So if you think about take Google or Facebook, for example, they were all like white geeks, and to be fair, I don't think those companies would be successful unless it was like this force of nature, like people that were like-minded in the trenches. Like, I think when you're starting a company, like in our situation, you need people that are like-minded. You need people that are like similar in values and culture, like that are driving towards a goal. And maybe later you can kind of broaden your group. But I've always been of the opinion that you need what's the thing? Not Navy SEALs in the UK. What they call the special troops?
SAS.
SAS. You need an SAS team.
No, again, I agree with you on this. But I was thinking it's more like a pop band. It's more like a rock band. It's like
but they're the same genre though. Like a rock band is the same genre, right? They're all playing the same type of music.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I could be doing jazz in my spare time, and then I could come in and do the rock band. But within the frame of the band, we have a shared value.
Right. But they're also these bands typically are the same. They're all the same people, right? Like they're either like a Jackson 5 or they're like Arctic Monkeys. Like they're the same guys.
Arctic Monkeys, Alex Turner, the lead singer, has this solo stuff, right? And it has another band as well.
Yeah. No, but the point I'm making is that they're just the same guys. Like you need that energy, that power of direction. I think I'm just talking about a specific guy we know who would be very good at his job, but maybe the culture is not the right fit in terms of what we're trying to do. Do you know what I mean?
No. I feel like you're alluding to something that I don't have a clue.
Begins with J. His name begins with J.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
we're gonna do no. If you didn't see the Craig podcast, that's where we had to moderate.
But no, seriously, like the guy is super talented, but would he fit in our team? That's the question mark. Would he have the same kind of?
There's an element of I'm kicking down this door. I need you to be behind me.
Right.
There's an element of that, and it's like, hang on, if you kick through the door, it's like, where is everyone? Right. That's not the team. It's like, but you've got to have each other's backs.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too far off topic here, but look at Bin Laden when he got killed, right? Those guys who went in to kill him, they would have been training for years, and they would have been on bonding, and I think to get the job done, you have to be, you have to be on it like that,
No, I agree. I think, like I say, you know, the rock band, you need to have a core set of principles and you need to love what you do. And, you know, like this is the thing, like a team, we don't need to have the same skill set, and we don't. And we're a great illustration of that principle, that we have different ways of thinking about problems, different ways to approaching problems. And the combination of that is what makes the Hypeworks work.
But we wear the same t-shirts. We wear the same color t-shirts.
Yeah, true. True. We wear the same t-shirts.
No, but we have similar interests, and we have similar like background and outlook. And when you tie all that stuff together, it really glues like the thing, you know?
Yeah. Being on the front line a few times.
Yeah. Project management. So this is like a thing where, like, I feel there's like there's a lot of standards in place. Like, there's a lot of, like, the way we work is like fairly standardized, but like I think it is a place where you can get competitive edge, because, you know, we worked in situations where like projects were really drawn out and like slow moving and not agile. And we've also worked in places where it's chaos. It's utterly chaos, right? Like, these projects have just been badly managed. The question is like, what's the approach to project management? Like, what tools are we using?
Obviously, you know what I'm like. There's no off-the-shelf answers here.
No.
I have my feelings and opinions about what kind of personas make the best project managers, to be honest with you. I know this is going to sound... This is where I don't sound like a sexist. I tend to find that female people tend to make better project managers if the project management in some ways is about organizing different components rather than the project management having a lot of decision making. Because the worst thing that I find in project management is when project managers that aren't necessarily domain experts start making calls and decisions with clients about topics that they don't know anything about. But generally speaking, the reason why I said females is because I think that women are a lot more organized in that sense.
They're better multitaskers. Like, we're men are super tracked, right? We need to focus on one thing. Right. I think the science backs that up. I don't know exactly, but yeah.
So number one for me is, I don't know why I think that I've just said, in that sense, I think women make better project managers because they can multitask and coordinate teams. And the second thing that I hate about project managers, and this goes for men and women, is people that overstep their domain expertise. Project managers that, I don't care if you've got a background in marketing. If there's a marketing manager, a director, or whatever in the project, leave it to them.
Yeah.
You know,
what do you think that is?
They should be responsible.
Do you think that's just power trip, ego, or do they care too much? Like, why does that happen?
I think people want to always interject their thoughts and opinions. You know, that people want to get their things across, and that's fine. You know, people can say as much as they want to say, but sometimes people, you know, for example, people shouldn't get butthurt if their idea doesn't get accepted. They just accept it and move on.
Is very common, yeah. So, project management is basically know your role and shut your mouth.
Kind of thing, it's know your role, and then so there's some points here. One, can multitask over a lot of different domains. Two, don't overstep your mark. And three, I guess it relates to point two, but it's really understand what is needed in the project management role. Because I'm talking about things like, if you've got a marketing manager that is very busy and don't send them a to-do list every fucking day. Do you know what I mean? Don't give them a to-do list every day. They maybe know what to do. So there's managing the personal relationships within your own team. That's highly, highly important. People forget the third ones because there's know your role, like, and stay in your lane, which is number 2. But number 3 is stay in your lane with how you manage people, because it's very easy to annoy people if they're very busy, following up every day. Maybe it comes down to how you manage it in the sort of sense of, look, we need this for Monday. I'll check in on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And so a large portion of it is people, but like, what kind of portion do you attribute to software tools? Where are we with the software side? I mean, we basically, like a lot of people, I guess, we just use Google like Workspace and Drive, and like it's not super sophisticated, but there's companies out there that are claiming like Asana, like we used Asana before, and they claim like, oh, this is going to solve all your problems with project management, but at the end of the day, it doesn't. There's still it's basically a file management and communications platform. Like, how so my question is like, how much can tools help with like managing stuff, projects?
Well, it's also how you use that tool, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like ChatGPT. You saw my tweet last week. No one likes my tweets, but I
like your tweet. There's a few people.
Oh, you like it. You're my only fan.
Other people like your tweet. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, people use like ChatGPT, and they write me a song about my brand. It's like, that's a fucking waste of time. It's a waste of your time and everybody else's time. And seeing people waste their time like that on my LinkedIn just really annoys me. It's like, you've wasted my time and everybody else's time. Like, I don't care. Write me a song about my social listening tool. Shut up. What a waste of time. So with regards to tools, it's not just about the tools that you have in your lineup, in your toolbox, but it's also how you utilize them as well. We used to use a tool, project management tool, won't say any names, very similar to Trello, Chinese copycat of Trello. And we, when we first started using the tool, I hated it. I really hated this tool. I was frustrated so bad. No one knew how they were using the tool, because the rules for how the tool was to be used within the team hadn't been refined, hadn't been set. So everybody was using this tool inside the same project in a different way. So you have to have a systematic, there has to be a notion, there's another tool, there has to be a notion of when to use the tool and for what purpose and how the tool helps you manage the project. You can't just throw a tool and go, right, guys, there's our tool, this is going to solve all your needs. It's like, what we're using the tool for, okay? And there's the other thing, it's picking the right tools. The amount of times that I've seen people pick the wrong tool and try and use a media scanning tool like Meltwater to fulfill a social listening job that another tool like TalkWalker can do. Meltwater is a better media scanner in terms of scanning media, PR. It does scan social media as well, but it doesn't give you the same analytics, the insights, or the breakdown that a social listening tool like TalkWalker, that is specifically made to scan social media, will. Okay, so picking the right tool is tip number 2. It's very important. What are you going to utilize the tool specifically for? Because a scanner can be a scanner for media or social media in the same way that a project management tool can be a project management tool for a campaign that lasts a month or a campaign that lasts 10 months,
Yeah. We're big fans of HubSpot. HubSpot was named this week. It was named like the most liked or admired marketing software, and it's fair enough. It's really good.
It is, yeah. It's versatile.
Yeah, I mean, it can't do everything, but it does enough of what we need. Like in terms of like CRM, like it's the best, right? I have to give hat tip to you. You kind of got me onto this. Yeah. No, it's really good.
I just think it's like, in terms of the tools for like CRM, it's the way that it's able to integrate and be utilized with basically 90% of the software that's already out there.
The email capturing thing is genius. Like getting the emails from the integrations, like
yeah. I mean, for me, like the next level on top of that is obviously then going to like a huge enterprise level kind of system, ERP tools, stuff like Salesforce, you know, is the next level. But
it's now though, like it's really old school.
well, it's just massive, isn't it? It's like where you go, how do you use it? It's a huge, huge, huge tool.
This is the
Someone needs to manage it full time.
segue because we talk about project management. We're talking now about sales, and HubSpot's kind of a big part of sales because it's a CRM, right? Sales is this thing, like no one really goes to school to study sales. You only learn sales by actually doing it, right? Selling. And this year, like we've had to learn a lot about sales, you know. Yeah, kind of eye-opening actually.
I guess in some ways it's like sales is always there.
Yeah, always there. Yeah, doesn't matter what business you're doing or whatever, right?
No, I guess it comes, but you know, you tailor to your market, and how sales might work in one market may be very different from how it works in another market. And then it's a formula, you know, it's trial and error, figuring out what works, figuring out what doesn't work. So sales is a process.
Sales is life and death. Like we talk about a lot of things in this episode today, but at the end of the day, if you can't sell what you're doing, you're not going to survive, you know?
True like, say.
Yeah. What do you think, like, what do you think is working now in the sales side?
For us?
Yeah, and in general, like, what do you think people should do?
You know, we don't want to give too much of our secret formulas away on this podcast. So, what do I think is working?
I mean, the obvious one is outreach, right? Like just actually talking to someone, either email, you know, calling, messaging, whatever, right?
Yeah and no, because I think that we do that, but, you know, as we've discovered, people like us for our consistency and our credibility and our creativity, you know, so it's building all the time. I think reputation is as important in sales as the ability to close the deal.
Yeah.
You know, if you start to develop a reputation where people go, okay, we know what this is worth. The fees are going up, everyone. So reach out to us now because the fees are going up.
That's another good piece of advice to in a bad economy is to charge more. People think it's the opposite, right? But actually, you should probably charge more.
I don't know. I think it comes down to, can you justify the price point as well?
Yeah.
And like I say, the more we go through the process, the better that we get, the more we learn, the more streamlined we come, the closer we get to our objective.
Yeah.
We know our value, and, you know, the value is getting to the point where
so you're saying like the inbound side is an area, like inbound sales is something people should also not forget, like, you know, optimizing the funnels and like making sure that like your business is working for you, you know, like all of your assets, your website. You talked about website before, and, you know, like even this podcast, like you have to optimize all your stuff to give you the best chance of getting the sale, you know.
Again, I'm not really looking at it in a sense of optimization. I'm looking at it more in a sense of, it's not about optimization for even us. I don't think we're optimizing. It's more like we're growing into ourselves. That's how I feel. We're not optimizing, we're getting better. You know?
Yeah.
That's the situation. We know where we've started, and we had to start there, you know. We had to start here, and it was tough, and we ground it out, and it wasn't easy. And in September, we were losing our minds sometimes, and it was tough, you know. But
man, I still remember sending out the survey for the name. I can still see that in my head, like the Google survey thing. And we were looking at the pie chart. Remember that?
Right.
That's fine.
I do. And like I say, you know, these are tiny, tiny things, but it's everything's adding up. You know?
Yeah.
So everything's kind of adding up. So
and
I
then,
don't know. I don't really look at the sales in terms of optimization. Yeah. For me, it's starting to get to the point where it's like, guys, guys, I'd be banned in some companies for saying that. It's like, this is what it is. This is the value. We can deliver the value. It costs this much. Take it or leave it. And that's not arrogance. That's not arrogance, you know. We need to save our time for people that are not only, you know, for people that we're willing to invest in as much as people willing to invest in us.
Yeah. Fine. Like, I just want to kind of talk about this quickly, because whenever I think of sales, I think of Jordan Belfort, right? I think of Sell Me This Pen. And that movie was like famous because there was no like science to it, right? They just got Jordan Belfort would call up the guy and he would just give him the sweet talk and, you know, like the sales techniques. And then, you know, you hear these people today, like it's all about AI, it's all about like CRM systems and data. Where do we lie on terms of like you said before, like the art versus the science in terms of sales? Like, well, are we writing too much about like that? Or
I mean, it's the difference. Like, it's like, who do you want to be? Do you want to be Elton John or Jerry Rafferty? Do you know what I mean? They're different kind of artists, you know. They're different. They've got different kinds of styles. One plays a guitar, one plays the piano. You know, one makes a certain.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
One makes a certain type of music. The other one makes a different type of music. It's like, what kind of music do we want to play? It's Look, we're going to be defined by our choices, both in our professional, business, careers, brands, and our personal lives. We're an aggregate of those decisions that we make. So in a way, I think
you kind of need both, right? You kind of need both.
Yeah, you need both.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I say, what happens in a discussion, and it doesn't matter whether it's like, it doesn't matter whether it's a PR decision for one of our clients, or, you know, we're trying to figure out what concept works the best for a naming decision. It's, you know, we have different approaches, different ways of thinking about it. And the output is, as long as we've tried our hardest and we've discussed it, and it's a combination of our different thinkings and ways of working and our style, whatever comes out the other end is just what it is. It's the hype works. And that's the kind of, that's the art that you get from the hype works, you know. In the same, there's other agencies out there. They may charge you more, they may charge you less. They'll give you a different product. I just hope you like the record that we're mixing in our studio.
Yeah. No, at the end of the day, people don't care how the sausage is made, right? They just want the sausage.
Right.
Communications and like, there's a lot of like bollocks, I think, about the communication stuff right now. I just want to get this off my chest because, like, you know, like these companies all adopted the Slack and we had the ones at different companies. We had like Ding Talk, the one in China. We had like WeChat in China. We have like WhatsApp, and we have what other bloody ones we're using. Like, there's so many of these chat apps now. And like, so the question is like, are we like, should companies really be like throttling these, or should you just like say, oh fuck it, like we're just going to use whatever we can use? How much of a role do you think the comms side is?
Listen, look, I love Slack. I love Slack as a, you know, I think it's the best enterprise social network out there. Okay, so in terms of like instant messaging. But I do think there's a time and a place for instant messaging tools. And I also think that there's a time and a place for email. And I think email gets completely overlooked, but email shouldn't, because it's an organizational tool in a way that an enterprise social network instant messaging tool is not. Okay, that's what I think, because too many times I think the default these days is to use social enterprise tools like Slack for instant messaging.
WhatsApp, whatever, yeah.
Right, exactly. And look, it's great that Slack stores files, etc., but it's unorganized. If you've got a team of 20 people saying things and sharing things, and someone goes, guys, these are the top things we need to focus on this week. By the time it's Wednesday, there's 300 messages in the group. And what was considered this is the top thing, I know it's been pinned but an email is much easier to organize. So I'm a big fan of like pen and paper, as you know. Got a lot of pen and paper going on these days. I think it's still the best way to organize like my personal schedule. I use a calendar as well. A lot of people these days just go, oh, let's have a meeting on Wednesday in a messaging group. And you get round to messaging, you're like, guys, it's 2 p.m. Let's have the meeting. And it's like, oh, yeah, sorry, we're 10 minutes late. It's like, how? How are you 10 minutes late? We organize this, we sent you an invite, and you've only checked the Slack group.
And it's like, as well, it's like, it's just that it's the timing as well, right? Like so before, like email, like of course you can send email any time of day, but like for me, when I was doing emailing people for work, externally or internally, like I always try and like time it to know that I'm not going to send an email at like 11 o'clock at night, and then I know that there's going to be pressure on the person when they wake up next day. I'm going to wait till the next day to send the email. Like there's like a bit of humanity in like email, right? But then, these chat stuff, it's like, you get a sent message like 11, 12 o'clock at night, and like, am I going to reply to that now? Like, do I need to do that?
The thing is, though, some of that is cultural. Some of that's cultural.
Yeah, it's also time zones, like time
zones.
No,
but for me, working 24/7 has become a normality because of in China, working 24/7 is a normality. So I used to be a lot more conscientious about times. Like, I'm going to send this out now. It will, blah, blah, blah. I used to think a lot more about that, but these days it's just when it's done.
Let me flip the conversation then. Like, should we impose our communication style on people, like other client or whatever, or should we accept that everyone's got their own style and
the only style
responsive?
Yeah, the only style we should impose is on our own staff, because that's our standards.
Right. So you're saying like if externally, if people want to send messages in whatever app they want to use, we should just kind of be reactive and try and like do the best job?
No, I think there's still time and a place to send email. Let's say I'm sending out contracts or invoices or key event milestones or whatever, that should go in an email.
Because like a lot of these companies now, they're like they're using these like chat apps, on their website, to try and divert like messaging and emails into the chat app, right? Because they want to funnel that for efficiency. Like what do you think of that?
Well, I'll tell you here and now, I use a tool called Falcon.io. If you're listening, Falcon.io, you're part of the Brandwatch group now. They've done that recently, and there's nothing more infuriating, because if they've got this chat function, but it takes people 8-9 hours to respond, and when they finally do respond, they're probably responding to about 30 people. So then they end up sending you emails, and by the time you actually get a response, you don't care anymore. Yeah. So again, you can have the systems, but it's really, for me, those kind of things are about customer experience. And in the same way for us as well, like we can't impose, this is the way we're working and we're not flexible. But in any kind of client relationship, I do think compromise, it's a relationship, it has to be worked out. And henceforth, why picking the right kind of clients is so important, because is there chemistry in our relationship?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. We'll talk about like some future plans. So we're going to exclusively reveal on this episode, we're working on our own product called WorksApp. The point of this is basically there's so many tools out there to do project management, like we talked about before. But I think it's important to have your own product, because that like shows your people, your clients, that you're serious about like, managing their data, like files, because right now all of that is in other people's hands. B, you can then like own the process, like you can like customize and tailorize like the, you know, the whole experience. So it's like your thing. And then C, it's just fun, right? It's fun to like build a product. And I think it's quite exciting, to be honest. So, but we still haven't really thought of the, we're just starting this. We're not like, we haven't kind of got the end game nailed down, but at least we're kicking off. We have a landing page now, put that link in the description. But the whole idea is basically we want to encapsulate our vision and our values into a piece of software.
This is true. I'm not sure how much we should say live right now. But yeah, ultimately the whole product and the concept is designed to streamline, I guess, because again, I don't want to say too much in case anybody may be listening, but you know, especially where we are, we're really about bridging the gaps here and connecting the dots. And you know, because we've got that critical objective perspective, working with, you know, our clients in some ways, which are mostly Chinese, though not exclusively Chinese. You know, we're really trying to deliver value by going, okay, from our perspective, there's some inefficiencies here, and here. Here's a product that will mitigate those inefficiencies, not only when you're working with us, but also other potential partners that may pertain to a different perspective than yourself. And again, this is kind of where we started, or where we're starting with the application or the web app, the product in itself. But where it goes, it can't just be nailed down to one domain. This is a product that will be truly global when it's finished.
Yeah, and I think building a product also teaches you learn about like we worked on products before. We've done product marketing, and product marketing is different from doing a service. So I think it's good to know, like, you know, how products work, how product marketing works in terms of like delivering that service to the customers, right? So
true, but you know, as we've already alluded to, though, like we want to be different in the way in which we do it.
Mm. Yeah.
That's cool.
Super exciting, and I think we'll talk about it in the kind of more in the future. But I think we can have like an episode on it, like when it's kind of further down the pipe. Related to that, like marketing channels. I think we've come a not going to say long way, but we've come a bit of the way in terms of marketing channels. And what's the point I'm going to say? It's like, yeah, I mean, there's no like magic bullet for marketing like online these days. Like it's, you know, there's no easy wins. Like, imagine like you're doing Facebook ads back in the day, or you're doing email marketing back in the day, or you're on YouTube back in the day. You can grow really quickly, but it's really hard now to like build an organic following, right?
I think in a way it's about consistency.
Yeah.
We've said this for a long time, but it's about consistency and authenticity.
Yeah. But if you're an individual, of course you can build a following quickly, you know? We've talked about this before, like there's OnlyFans girls that just pop up overnight, and you know, they've got like 1 million followers, and then there's these like Twitch guys, you know, like they blow up, but building a company following is like, it's hard. Like people don't really like to follow brands like in the same way.
Well, yeah, but again, it's about shared value alignment, isn't it? It's like people want to follow things that they feel that they share values with.
Yeah. What channel are you most like bullish on, like for us in general?
For hype.
Yeah, or
yeah. It depends. Different purposes, you know, different purposes. They all have a different purpose. That's what I think. You know, yeah. podcast, emailing, blogs, Instagram, WeChat, Twitter, YouTube, they all have a different purpose.
Yeah, and there's Discord as well. We talked about Discord before, but that's another can of worms. Really. Yeah, Reddit. I think it's just slow and steady. Just keep building, right? Just keep putting out content, good content. Like interact with other people, other brands, other people online. Like we've done that. Yeah. I like Ryanair. Like Ryanair do these cool these cool kind of tweets and stuff.
Challenge your brand.
Yeah. Just make fun of other brands. You gotta have fun with it. I think social media, you gotta have fun with it. Like, yeah. Right. Yeah. Otherwise, what's the point? Yeah. And then finally, KPIs. So we did a good session on KPIs. I think we came away with it like you just can't have too many KPIs, and they can't be too complicated, but they've got to be substantial. They've got to be realistic, and like, you know, they have to have meaning. You have to have they have to be a goal, like an actual thing you want to achieve. Like Elon Musk, he's kind of famous right now because he's asking his engineers at Twitter, like, what have you done this week? You know, and I think not enough people like ask this question, like, what did we do this week? I mean, we did a lot this week, but like, and then at the end of those weeks, like you add it up. Okay, what did I do this month? 6 months.
Yeah, but you know, the resolution of the picture can sometimes become more clear. I mean, we're making progress. You know, we had our KPI session. We sometimes just take a 15-minute call in the middle of the day, and it's like, yo, Alex, this is what I think. We got to do this. Blah. This is where, you know, this is the next investment, and this is why it makes sense. We do have those kind of like epiphanies, you know, where the resolution, like you go, okay, we've been working, and now the whole picture has become clear. The direction. This is where we need to go. This is what works. You know, there are those moments with the whole KPIs. But again, I think KPIs in that sense, you know, our KPIs are quite broad, to be honest with you. But how we achieve those KPIs, I think that's where the resolution is starting to appear. It's not we can achieve the KPI, or we achieve the KPI by any means necessary. It's that we're achieving the KPI.
Do you remember
in the way we try, in the formula that we've created?
You remember sitting in these meetings like before, and then they have like the post, I don't know what they call it, like post rundown meeting thing, and like they put the KPI up on the screen and they say, "Oh yeah, we hit this KPI," you know, and then the room's like, okay, it's like, I think the problem is the KPI is like, it's like running a race, right? And then you win the race, but then there's nothing after it, you know? There's no like next, you know, it feels very hollow in many ways, like a lot of the time, because like, it's not like it's not like a rolling KPI. It's like, okay, we've done that, and then what's next, you know?
Yeah, again, I think that's kind of the corporate culture. I think that's kind of the corporate culture that some organizations breed. You know, again, some companies only celebrate the wins. They don't look at the losses, so they only get half the picture as well.
Yeah.
That's their corporate. And then they go, why aren't we growing? Why is our brand not developing? You know, it's big communication issues based around what's being said.
The key for KPIs is like setting them and then like trying to achieve it and go past it. But then don't dwell on it. Like once it's done, it's done. Like get new ones. Like go for the next thing, you know?
I agree. But it all comes back around to this setting up your organizational culture in the right way. It's alignment across everything. Different kinds of values, principles, how you achieve those KPIs, the way in which you're going to do it, etc.
Yeah, and like you say, that feeds into like employees, because then they use that for their own like reviews and stuff, right? And Correct. A lot of these are meaningless. Like they're just Correct. Completely stupid.
I mean, I'll just call out Alibaba on this one. Alibaba, some of the KPIs, I'm not saying this goes across the whole organization because it is actually a great place to work. But some of the KPIs, being set effectively a year out, halfway through the year, there's a new director who's got a completely different vision, but the whole organization is stuck following the KPIs that they had set 6 months earlier. And especially in an organizational culture like Alibaba in China, if they don't make those KPIs, they're potentially risking half their yearly annual income. So the organization becomes conflicted.
Yeah.
The whole thing about having broad KPIs, this is why we've done it, and to give ourselves a bit of flexibility in how we achieve it.
Yeah. I don't know, like I think you have to be kind of explicit about it, but at the same time just don't worry like too much about like, reaching the KPI and then reporting on it. Like I don't know, I just feel like, there's all these terms like OKR, like, we work in these companies, like, and like, it's all bullshit, right? Like, yeah, you need it, but like, it's like, this is not the mission of the company is the key. If we do the mission, then everyone's pointing the same direction, then the stuff will follow, Don't worry too much about it.
Again, though, that's where the management, you need to have the right corporate philosophy about the kind of KPIs that's set. What the KPI fundamentally means.
It's true. Any thoughts on like the master plan, or I don't know, just any thoughts on the stuff we're doing?
No, not really. I mean, in a way, there's the conversation that we've just had, but for me, it's just about enjoying what we do.
Yeah, I think it's a useful exercise, and like broadly, like if you look at like the freaking the Marshall Plan after World War II, like it basically got the whole place back up on its feet. Like it is valuable. Like we did actually learn about this in China a little bit, like the long-term planning thing. It is good, like to have like plans set up, but at the same time, we're not going to follow it word for word, super strictly.
Yeah,
and it's going to change. It's going to change. The ship, the direction of the ship is going to change.
Yeah, best laid plans of mice and men.
All right, we wrap.
Lovely.
Yeah, hope people enjoy this. If they want to do more like personal bar stuff, then we can do more of it.
Craig podcast uploaded again next week.
Next one's going to be a guest again, so
the Craig one though, guys, don't miss the Craig podcast. It's
episode 12. It's disappeared from our YouTube channel.
It might be back soon though.
All right. Bye. Bye.
Adios.